Well, hello there and welcome back to the channel. Now I have an apology to make. I had not one, but two plans for clips to make this weekend for a 30 stem challenge. We are the 3rd of November, full deep autumn time. And yesterday we had a category 9 or something ridiculous storm. So we should not have a single leaf on any of our trees. So my plan originally was to do a 30 stem challenge with just twigs, because I thought that's all I would have in the garden. And I thought we'd do a whole thing about twiggery pokery. That's going to have to wait. So then I thought, well, I know what we'll do is often people ask me what kind of foliage I have in the garden. So I thought I would go around the garden and I would cut one of all the different kinds of foliage and use that in an arrangement and challenge you to do the same. So it being the morning, it is my habit to come out with my dog before everybody else is awake and just have a little breathe, sniff the wind and see what's going on out here. And I found that actually, despite appearances, I have a garden full of flowers. So I apologise. I'm going to do a bog standard, straightforward, same as I always do, 30 stem challenge with a load of flowers still flowering in my garden on the 2nd of November. Another clip coming up. So the twiggery pokery clip will come, don't panic. So will the foliage clip. I will do them. But there is a third clip that's on my list of things to make, which is a clip about how the British flowers season never ends. So when I started flower farming in 2010, I could find about 5 other artisan flower farmers and very, very few larger scale flower farmers. And when I wanted to order in to supplement my stock in the winter, my choices were like 5 varieties. Now, my choices are through the ceiling. Anyway, I have a wedding and a party coming up at the end of November, beginning of December. So I'll make clips then about what flowers are available to buy, locally grown in the British Isles. And it will be the same around the world. You know, you don't have to, the world doesn't close down and Venezuela be the only place producing cut flowers in the middle of the winter. It really isn't. Anyway, I'll get off my high horse. So today's job, we are going to walk around a November garden and we are going to cut a 30 stem challenge, which I'm going to make for my local hotel, number 1, Bruton. I'm going to bear in mind that the drawing room there for which I make flowers is pink. A sort of rich salmon pink. I may have some rather nice bronzy looking Snapdragons just begging for it. And we're going to have some fun with what we've got. So if you're new to the channel, come along. Right, if you're new to the channel, you're very welcome. Please do subscribe, press the bell icon and we'll tell you when we've got more clips coming up. And if any of the tips and tricks I give you along the way are useful, you can always buy me a coffee, or better still, join my club. 330 other people are also members and it's beginning to be a really lovely community space full of enthusiastic gardeners and flower growers from all around the world. And the links to club membership and coffee buying are in the blurb to all my clips. Right, let's go. Yes, and if you're asking, that is my new studio. Very exciting. We are in the process of redesigning the flower farm. 14 years since we started. Astonishingly, the flower farm has grown and grown and it's, you know, going along. We make a living. It's amazing. It was not that amazing because it's very carefully planned and strategically organised. But that is going to be my new studio and it's got now electricity and I think I'll be in the next few weeks. Very exciting. And I talk about that and the redesign of the flower farm much more on my club. My club members get all about that. Look, I may make a living, but that doesn't mean I waste my money on new clothes. Anyway, on we go. And I can never turn this thing off. Look, pink Chinese forget-me-not. We'll have some of you ladies. Feverfew is astonishingly hardy, so we'll have some feverfew for a daisy shape. I'm always very keen on a daisy shape. This is a double butterfly Snapdragon bronze. I got it from Chiltern Seeds. They've been flowering since July. Small patch, really useful. I'm going to attempt to overwinter them. Sometimes I overwinter my snaps okay, sometimes not so much. But we'll have them for next year still, I hope. The nice thing is that my season is officially finished. So I am really being opportunistic for my weekly cut for my neighbours at the hotel in Bruton. Luckily for me, they really don't mind what I do for them. They quite like a kind of creative explosion. So I'm going to be very opportunistic, but normally I wouldn't sell anything at this time of year. So what you're getting from my cut flower patch are from little patches, the sort of size that you might have at home. I mean, that's not a big patch of Snapdragons. It's just a few, but I don't need masses. I need a few. So let's cut them. Right, as I'm passing, if you haven't lifted your dahlias yet, I should get on with it. Especially if you're in the UK, we've had warm and very, very wet weather. So the ground in which your dahlias are sitting is extremely soggy. So your dahlias are also extremely soggy. And it is today something like 10 degrees. It's not cool even. 12. It's really warm for the time of year. And we haven't had any really cold nights. We've had one light frost. And so I foretell the same thing that happened last year. So for all of those of you who've kept your dahlias and gone, oh, but they're lovely and I can't bear to get rid of them, and oh, it's all going so well and aren't we lucky to have them so late, dig them up now if you're going to, and get them somewhere to dry out frost free. Because last year, do you remember, we had a lovely long autumn, gorgeous weather, 2 weeks of lashing rain, and then a week of -6. And the number of people who lost their dahlias last year, including some quite well-known growers, because they just weren't ready. So I hand over my warning now. You have a good weekend ahead of you. Get out there, dig your dahlias up if you're going to. And if you're not going to dig them up, if you're going to leave them in the ground, bear in mind that the ground is very, very waterlogged after this very big storm. We've got another storm coming in this weekend with a lot more rain. So if you're going to leave your dahlias in the ground, protect them. Heavy mulching. Heavy, heavy mulching. Because you don't want them to be wet and close to the surface and then hit by serious frost, which will just, you'll dig them up in the spring, you'll try and dig them up and find that they're mulch. Don't say I didn't warn you. Right, almost an upper lecture over. Right, the reason I'm here is because the last of the Verbena bonariensis, not pink, but in the zone. Hello, darling. Look at that colour. Huge swathe of Cerinthe major purpurescens. I'm calling that pink. It's in the pink zone. So the light is much lower now that it's November, even though it's still warm. So something like this brachioglottis, which has literally a white line drawn around the edge of the leaf, gives you a lovely silvery feel. But also, if the room is dark, it gives you a paler background against which to put the flowers so they'll show up. Because these are summery weight and summery colour and summery feel flowers, but it's not summery light. We want to give them something to show up against. This is why shrubs are so valuable in a cut flower patch, because they give you a foil to show your flowers against. Sedum definitely counts as pink, I say. Not strictly pink, but enough Persicaria red dragon for a snip. Hardly any, but I don't need much. Yes, there are roses in bud, but I'm checking them to make sure Let's put this, and then you'll come into focus. Make sure that they're not rotting at all, because we've had so much rain and they can be a bit rotty. So I'll take what I can get. And this is Rosa Tuscany Superb. Wonderful foliage at the end of the season. So I'm going to have some of this as foliage. And I know I said I'd save the twiggery pokery for another clip, but the leaves are coming off the lime very nicely, and lime twigs are strong and tall and full of noticeable buds for the spring. So I quite like a story, an arrangement to tell a story of the future as well as the past, and buds of spring for next year. Their winter is coming, the leaves will come off the trees, and next spring we will have buds. And so I'm going to have some of this because it gives me lovely structure, but it also tells the story. And even if you don't know, if the person looking at the arrangement doesn't know, people don't look at an arrangement and analyse it, there are synapses in their head going, oh look, that's next spring, don't panic, it's all okay. And last but not least, I love the rosemary and its gorgeous tall spikes. But I won't cut this stem because look, there's a little ladybird just in there and he needs somewhere to spend the winter. I've said it before, and I know I'll say it again and again and again. There is always more in your garden than you think. I know I'm a flower farm, so I should have flowers in my garden, but I also have a season that officially finishes on the 30th of September. And I've given myself the extra challenge of focusing on only cutting pink, for a pink arrangement to go into a pink room. So please do, if you can, get outside this weekend with a pair of scissors and snip a few stems from your garden. And we call it the 30 stem challenge. Hashtag 30, number 30, stem challenge. If you look across social media and you look for the hashtag 30 stem challenge, you will find people all around the world who are amazed at what they find in their gardens when there shouldn't really be anything there. And if you go out into your garden and you spend half an hour mooching about with a pair of snips, you will see a great deal more than just the occasional unexpected flowering stem. You will see the spring in the buds on the twigs for next year. You will see the ladybirds finding somewhere to hibernate. You will be reassured that not only will the world carry on, whatever happens, but you can trust it to do that. So while the news may be appalling, your little acts in making a garden and your little time that you spend in it looking at your garden, A, improve your environment, so you've done a good thing, but B, improve your mood, which means that you have a good influence on what's happening in the world. And it may feel as though that's just a tiny thing and you live far away from anything and you can't make a difference. But I promise you, if your mood is improved that much, then all the people around you, their mood is improved that much. All of them. And then if all of those people's moods are improved that much, then all the people around them, and so on and so on. Like rings going out in water all around the world. So get out there, guys. Make a 30 stem challenge this weekend. It doesn't have to be pink and it doesn't have to have any flowers in it. I challenge you. Right. I can never turn this thing off. Right, I'm going to put you on the whizzy and we're going to think pink. Think pink was famously said by Diana Vreeland, who was my boss in Paris, was the venerable and glorious Miss Train, Susan Train. And in the 60s and early 70s, the editor-in-chief of American Vogue was famously Diana Vreeland. And so Miss Train, my boss, was the Paris editor of American Vogue and used to have to travel the world with people like Leslie Blanche, who would be writing the article, and Henry Clark, who'd be photographing the articles. And Susan used to say to Diana Vreeland, you know, what are we doing in this shoot? And famously one day, Diana Vreeland said, think pink! She also said, pink is the navy blue of India. So I should really be wearing pink. Anyway, I haven't got a pink, very holy cardigan. So I'm going to make a pink arrangement for number 1 Bruton. I'm going to put it on the Wizzy Wizzy and we'll have a look at it when I finished it. But I hope you have already turned off this clip and are heading up your garden to find yourself 30 stems, even if they're ickle tiny. Pop these last stems in. I think what's worth watching out for in an arrangement like this is any black holes made by some of the darker material that I've put in. So you can see here, this looks like a black hole here, but this arrangement is going in a drawing room where the light is flooding in from the other side, and there's quite a lot of electric light permanently turned on because it's a hotel. So while this doesn't look great here, there it should look all right. But I'm still going to balance it with some of this very end of season echinacea. And I'm at the stage where I really have to jam each stem in. It's hard to find space for everything. These are not pink. These are Woollerton Old Hall, but they're pink enough. I think in life, you know, pink enough. And I'm just tucking them in where I can find space now. Look at aren't the snaps good though? Those Snapdragons were really worth planting, weren't they? When making a very stuffed arrangement like this, it's worth, when you finish, just run your hands around it to make sure that the stems, sometimes you think, oh, that stem's gone in easily. And the reason it's gone in easily is actually it's come out the other side and isn't in the water at all. Right, I'm going to finish it off and I'll show you when I've done. And the very last stems are the Persicaria. And I'm just going to have them hanging out the sides. With their little dots of white flowers. I think with floristry like this, the skill is to just choose what you're going to have when you're cutting it and then get it in water. This isn't really arranged. If you watched the speeded up part, you'll see I have literally just put everything in, but because it's good garden material, it's doing its own work. It's working hard for me. I don't have to do the work. And if you really can't get a stem in, take it out and find somewhere else, because otherwise you'll end up either breaking it or you'll feel as though it's in the water and you secretly know it's not, and it'll just die and ruin the whole thing. there we are. What do you think? Okay, so that is way more than 30 stems. But if you can get out there and find 30 stems, or even 15, or even 7, beautiful, something that catches your eye, snip a little bit and bring it in and put it in a pretty container, a little glass vase. It could be a glass, it could be a little pot, it could be a jam jar, it could be anything you like. Just go and walk around your garden when you think there's nothing there and see what you can find. Have a lovely weekend, everybody. Next week we will have twiggery pokery and I hope foliage, but for now, enjoy.